What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Commish Dish. I'm your host, Kirk Oliver, at Captain Kirk _ on Twitter. And I'm here with my co-host, my co-commissioner, the man, the myth, the legend, John Reed. How's it going, John?
Kirk, wearing all black today. Definitely a sad day. Lost my third straight game. And I watched Titanic for the first time on last Friday. Quite the movie. Really well done. Leo was spectacular. And, as I watched it, I realized that is my season. I am the Titanic. I was once the king of the world, riding high, everyone looking at me with envy. And now I'm sinking into 23-degree water, hypothermia setting in. The season's done.
Yeah, a lot of pomp and circumstance. They're smashing champagne bottles as you set out to sea. But yeah, iceberg ahead.
Iceberg already collided.
You know what, John?
Out.
I've been there. People, there's another team that started 6-0 in this league who finished at 7-5. I'm not going to say who it was, but
I'm not going to say names here.
I've been there, so that might be an indicator. And it's hard. It's harder than people think, especially when you've been humble the whole time. You've been a generous sort of ruler, in a way, and people spit on you kind of for that. But
I know it's like they hate us because they ain't us, and then when you are them, they hate you too. It's you damned if you do, damned if you don't.
That's all right. We'll probably be penalizing Jack Martelli soon. Some points here for some other stuff.
A couple points going to be levied against him. For crimes against the commissioner, crime against the league, crimes against the candidate.
If we had to point out who was responsible for putting the iceberg there, it would be Jack Martelli. Would you say?
You got to put it squarely on one person's shoulders, and that is Jack Martelli. I was on the phone with him, last week. I mean, what a cocky guy, unbelievable. And he pretty much said, "I am the iceberg," and I said, "You are nothing." And then I wound up losing, and now I am nothing. So now it's weird being in Jack Martelli's spot, like losing this much. I'm like, all right, this is how the other half lives.
All right, should we wrap up the intro with that?
It's
a little bit of a downer episode today, as you can tell. Don't worry, I'm gonna bring some positivity later on. Roll the intro. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to do another abbreviated. It's still going to be like an hour, but a shorter episode again this time. No guest, no mailbag. We should remember to do a mailbag probably for next week. But this week, we're going to go around the horn again. We're going to do power rankings, and then we're going to do preview, and then we're going to wrap it up. So we're going to start with around the horn, and we're going to start with the matchup kind of the only matchup we previewed last week, which was myself and John, the commissioner battle. And we both had John winning this game, but the return of Christian McCaffrey boosted the morale in my camp. And at 117 in a really bizarre week, which I guess we'll get into a little bit later, 117 points is the second highest point total this week. Bizarre week. But yeah, I win. You got any thoughts on this one, John, or do you want me to start?
Yeah, I mean, just to kick things off here, we'll get into this more, but the quarterback scoring was just across the board so low this week. And you know, one matchup that I'd like to highlight here for the people at home, Kirk starting the Browns defense against the Bengals. And I thought, Bengals pretty good. They got Mixon, Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. I mean, they got weapons across the board. So I was like, seems like a bad move. First drive, Joe Burrow's marching them down the field, gets it within the one. They throw it 99-yard pick going the other way, pick six for the Brownies. And that's a great play though. You got to tip the cap. Anytime you get a good defensive start like that, I can respect it. And Kirk, 118 on a normal week, I'm like, that's not great. Second most in the league. You did enough to win. And yeah, I think plenty of upside on this team. Swift coming back. James Conner is a beast, apparently. A lot to like about your team, man.
Yeah, you know what? It was an interesting week for me because like I was missing some guys. I had like I had McCaffrey still injured going into this week. Matthew Stafford was actually questionable going into this week. It was just kind of a bizarre week where I was kind of like, I have no idea what I'm gonna be starting here. Um, and as the week sort of progressed, I like kind of got all these players back, or at least their situations kind of got figured out. Even Odell, I mean, I think he's a free agent now.
Yes.
Um, we'll hold on to him a bit and see what happens. But actually, I have an interesting story about the Browns defense because I was looking to replace them, but I don't have like any free agent budget. So I wasn't gonna like spend time going through it when they were like waivers because I figured I'll just get outbid here. So I waited, and then like all of the defenses available were like really bad defenses playing really bad offenses, and I was like, I, like if I pick up this bad defense and they do like what they normally do, like I just look like an idiot. So I was like, I'll stick with Myles Garrett to get some sacks, and got super lucky there because the Browns actually moved the ball, or the Bengals moved the ball really well, but they kept turning the ball over.
Yeah.
Um, and then the game was over. But yeah, James Conner is a big thing for me. For some like crazy how things happen in fantasy football. Last week, I thought like I was the unluckiest team, kind of, and like I was really down on myself. I thought I was going to come in here and lose this game and kind of be out of the playoff race. But man, McCaffrey comes back. Swift is done with his bye now. Connor maybe is emerging as a reliable running back, and it just seems like I don't know. It just seems like everything's coming up roses, sort of a la Gypsy on Broadway. Um, and I don't know. I'm feeling a lot better. I'm probably gonna have to rename my team from Jesus Wept to something a little bit more positive. Um,
Definitely.
yeah, I mean, big win for me. On the other side of the ball, really tough one, John. This is a third loss in a row here, right?
They're lost in a row. Second week in a
Outside
row
of
under
Nick
100.
Chubb, I mean, outside of Chubb and maybe Justin Tucker, you got underproduced everywhere, basically, kind of.
Yeah, but I mean, looking at my team and really evaluating what I have here, I'm not impressed. I thought I had a good team. No, I don't. Zeke has been up and down. I did not expect them to get blown out the way they did, but he had a burst at the beginning of the year that is just gone now. He doesn't look like he's hitting the hole hard. And that's unfortunate for me. And then Nick Chubb goes off and then gets COVID. So he's out next week. And I mean, that's kind of the season right there. Unfortunate, really, some ebbs and flows here. Like you mentioned, things turn quickly. And, my team has soured very quickly on me. DJ Moore, I think, has been just, he's subject to Sam Darnold throwing him the ball. How good can you be when someone like that is throwing you the ball? And then for Darrell Williams, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, what a mess that running back situation is. Even though Clyde was out this week, Williams did nothing. And then when Clyde comes back, neither of them are going to have value. And then I put a lot of money into McNichols and Peterson. Fingers crossed of like, what one of them emerge. And it looks like it's going to be a running back by committee with three of them. I have probably can't even play any of them. And then Antonio Brown is still in a walking boot. So, really underproducing everywhere. Russell Wilson's coming back from injury, kind of like a golf clap, a nice consolation prize. But I think it's pretty clear I'm not going to win a game for the rest of the season. So, gonna miss the playoffs, but put up a pretty good effort, tried pretty hard this year, and had the most wins so far in my career. So can't be that upset with this year.
Well, I wanted to say something too here, John, because last time me and you played, I was like, I think I was like 2-1 and you were 3-0. Is that about
Mhm.
right? Something like that. And Mark Andrews on Monday Night Football kills me, right? And that's the week where all my injuries kind of happened. Um, so to lose that one was obviously super painful. And then I go into the kind of an injury, and you kind of take off and win another three, I think, or
Mhm.
two at least. And I kind of stumble around and looking for solutions. Um, and then this week, this is a pretty significant win for me and a significant loss for you, obviously, because you're looking for like one or two more wins to basically seal up, a playoff appearance here. And I kind of needed to win this game just based on where I'm like more in the race right now than you. Um, and so kind of a big series between us this year, John.
It was. There was no shortage of drama in this
Yeah.
series. We'll say that.
Um, do you want to talk about, because before the show you were saying Mark Andrews has been a kind of, besides that one game, has been a bit of a disappointment.
Nah, I mean, there's not much to say. He's been, a little underperforming, but I was just like started thinking about Zeke and then CeeDee Lamb. I mean, they looked awful last week, and we'll see what Dak brings to the table. But dude, I don't know. I hate each and every one of these players now to such a level that of just pure disappointment. Um, very, just a sad day. But I'm happy to move on. And why don't we just go left to right here, bringing in Mark versus Jack Martelli? And I have to say, Kirk, I was in the dumps. I'm like, I'm gonna miss the playoffs. Then I was like, hey, Jack lost too, though. Like, let's go, run it up. Run it up, Mark. Putting up 101, taking him out by 15 in a blowout. You love to see that. Why don't we start off with Mark? What did you see? What did you like here?
Okay, so again, weird week from quarterbacks. I think a lot of good quarterbacks had buys or injuries and stuff like that. And then on top of that, even some of the good quarterbacks who did play kind of played bad or whatever. Um, One thing that was a little bizarre from Mark was, I don't know if he just didn't see, but Kittle came back and then he kind of had a his game. So kind of bizarre not to play him right away, I would think. But other than that, I mean, dude, Mark has very consistent running back production. I watched the first half of the Vikings game, and Dalvin was going crazy, and then I turned it off, and I feel like Dalvin didn't really score any more points. So I'm not sure what happened there, but I don't know. I think Mark has to be very confident in his running backs. Jamar Chase had, I think, his worst game of the year, and he picks up a win, and now he gets Kittle back. I like Mark's team a lot. I think Mark's team is very solid. I think he's going to the playoffs.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Cordell Patterson is unbelievable. He's reminding me of, some of our listeners who've been playing for a while will appreciate this. Devontae Freeman. I don't know, maybe 4 to 5 years
It
ago.
was a Falcons kind of breakout guy.
Falcons running
Yeah.
back and was just a big pass catcher. And Cordell Patterson, man, I don't know what it is, but he just like running out of the backfield and just catching a ton of balls. Like that's his game. And he's very productive with it. So, excellent pickup. It's probably rivals for best pickups of the year, I would say, with because Mike Williams has fallen off. I'm trying to think of like anyone else who's like really big, but Cordell Patterson, excellent pickup from Mark. And like you said, George Kittle, Marquise Brown has been excellent. I know he drops a ton of balls, but still wide receiver 6. Like he's got a good team. He's got a lot of depth. And, he did enough to win this week. And turn over to Jack. kind of an anomaly of a week, I'd say. Whenever you have to start Landry, Renfro, Derek Carr, and some guy named CJ Uzma, that's tough. That's tough. Got hit with the bye bug, got hit with the injury bug. Sucks to suck, I guess. I don't feel any
I
sympathy for
mean,
him.
it was brutal, especially too for him because it seems like no one else really had buys this week. And he kind of got hit big by buys. Like, I mean, his bench scores 0 points here. Um, and Jack gets a bunch of late injuries on his team. Like, that's unfortunate, but I mean, because we still have some injury situations that will develop, I'm sure, but it sucks to get your injuries later in the season. Although I think, I mean, I don't know what's Hopkins' status here, John. Is he coming back or?
I don't know. He said he's day by day right now.
Okay, because it's hurting his status to be a top 10 wide receiver, which Jack was absolutely confident in earlier.
Yep.
And I don't know. I just think Jack is in trouble. 86 points, and he needs to get in on points, kind of 3-6 here. Even if Jack wins outright and you beat Prego, you have the same win total. So that's the situation Jack's in right now. He needs either a lot of luckiness record wise, or he needs to score a lot of points. But Josh is what? Josh is what? 4 wins now.
Yeah, 4 and 5.
Josh is in that 6 record wise right now, and Josh is like 1 or 2 points scored. So not looking good for people who are trying to get in on points. And I mean, I'm sure Josh will win some more games, but I don't know. I mean, he's 2 games back, or what is he's only 1 game back, I guess, on I guess I'm 5-4, so he's 1 game back on me, but still, I'm 2 points below Jack, and if things continue, at the current rate, like I'm gonna gain on him as opposed to losing ground. So I don't know. It's just a really bad week for Jack, and yeah, that's all I've got to say.
As I said, when you start out as bad as he did, these games are must wins. Every single loss is devastating here, and to lose and not score points is just a double whammy. And yeah, I mean, I don't know what his playoff chances are according to ESPN, but I imagine they're probably less than 10%, less than 20%. It's kind of a pipe dream at this point. Do you want to move on to Santi and Summer?
Yeah. And here's like Santi scores 90 points this week, and like Sommer scores 104. Like there's like how many teams scored under 110 this week? Like basically all but 5 teams, all but 4 teams, right?
Yeah, 6 teams.
Yeah. So that's crazy. Weird week. These guys weren't affected by the quarterback bug as much. But Eckler doesn't really do anything. Stephon Diggs is still having kind of a weird season. And on the other side, like Chase Edmonds gets injured, right? I kind of thought he was injured going into that game, but I
Now
don't know.
he was
It's sort of bizarre. Like none of these guys played very well. But it was kind of a down week across the league, so that's what you get. What do you think? I mean, hard to read too much into this, but
yeah, no, I think you're right. The defense, not starting a defense from Santi, it's tough because 14 points, that is a lot for defense, but your defense scored 18. It's not out of the realm of possibility. So, you gotta think what if there. But he also just very unfortunate with Chase Edmonds going down. I think it was on the first play. I'm almost positive it was on the first play. So, like, how can you see that coming? And then, dude, Santi had just so many injuries. Like, I complain about my injuries, but dude, Chris Carson, James Robinson, Saquon Barkley. It's like, how many injuries can you
Aaron Rodgers
deal with? Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, Aaron Rodgers being out for 2 weeks. Like, how many of these injuries can you deal with and still give yourself a chance? And I still like Santi's team to a degree, but it's kind of shame. It's kind of upsetting to just see the potential of this team versus what it has turned into after all the injuries.
I think Santi's definitely been the most affected by injuries at this point in the season. And like even the Chase Edmonds thing, like with the way James Conner played, like do you like, is he going to be rushed back when he comes back? Are they going to load manage him a lot more? He's just gotten really unlucky with some of this stuff, and that's the way it goes in fantasy. I guess we keep saying about Santi's team, but I think he's been kind of exceptionally unlucky this year.
Agreed.
And it's unfortunate, but I don't think he has much of a shot now at the playoffs. 4-5, and I mean his record-wise, he still technically has a chance, but I just think the injuries and everything, it's just too much to overcome.
Yeah, I mean he is getting. I mean, of course, when he's playing me, he's getting James Robinson and potentially Chris Carson back. So you slot him in there, running back 1, running back 2, maybe put Gaskin at the flex, and then sub out Sutton for Godwin.
But
and then put in Hawkins.
even that win gets him to 500, right? If he does win that game. And I don't know. I just think
I think he still has
it's
a
going to be
chance.
tough for him to get into the playoffs. I think it's
Yeah.
possible. I do think it's possible, but I think it's very tough. As for Will, I think this is like Will's maybe 5th win with under 110 points scored. It doesn't fucking matter like what he scores, his opponent will score less. And he
Why don't we
basically,
just
I mean, can we just say now Will is in? I mean, Will has 7 wins. Is Will in?
Yeah. So Will has won games at 111 points, 116, 104. So that's 3 wins under 116 points. Pretty impressive. Pretty impressive. We'll say that.
Yeah.
And then even like, winning at 129, winning at 134, and beating Josh by like 4 points. Like he's definitely, fate has gone his way. He has the least points against in the league, and he's done it again, Kirk. He's done it again.
Yeah. I don't think Will's team is like exceptionally bad, but I do think that they are lucky to be 7-2. And I look at this roster, like I'm more excited by Mark's roster than Will's. I'm more excited by Josh's roster than Will's. Obviously, like my own roster, like I would equate yours and Will's rosters like pretty evenly, John. And I don't know. I just like, dude, Stephon Diggs is taking a step back. I mean, like Mike Gesicki. I look at this roster and I don't see anyone who's like, among the top 3, I feel, in their position. Maybe Eckler, but I don't know. It's just hard to see dominance on this roster. And I mean, I think we can safely say he's in the playoffs, but I don't know. I'm concerned about, like playoff implications. What can this roster do in the playoffs? Um, but
Yeah, I mean,
that's
he
not really
said,
new. I mean, we've had those concerns all year. He's made
yeah.
some moves like for Stephon Diggs and stuff, but Diggs hasn't really returned to form. I don't know. I just think, good team. They'll make the playoffs. They're 7-2. Do I expect a championship run? I don't really. I'm not even certain that they'll lock up the bye. I could see this team going on a bit of a skid here at the end of the season. I mean, I'm not saying that they will, but it could happen. So, but they're in the playoffs at 7-2. They're in the
We
playoffs.
said in the group chat, I'm going to be one and done in the playoffs. And, it's very possible. I think part of the issue, too, is he drafted Gibson, I assume the 2nd round, looking at the team. And Gibson has not returned the value. I thought he was going to be very good. And he was kind of drafted around the Najee Harris. So I'm sure Will Sommer's kicking himself if he picked Gibson over Harris. I don't remember how it all unfolded, but those are the type of moves that kind of haunt you. And looking at this team, if he did have a Harris, that's a whole different team. But as it stands right now, I think I agree with you, Kirk. I'm pretty confident he'll lock up the bye, but I don't feel great about this team in the playoffs.
Well, we have to say one thing too before we move on from Will, in that he does seem like. I mean, what would you give him a chance to get the bye?
Probably. Well, I mean, he's only really competing. So what, do we have 2 buys, right? For each division?
So he's competing for the North Division. So you're 1 game back and I'm 2 games back. Santi's 3. Jack's kind of out of the bye conversation.
I give him probably 85% chance of getting the bye.
Okay, well, if he gets the bye, then Will has gotten the bye 3 years in a row in our division. He's won a division
Really?
3 years in a row, and he's lost. He still hasn't won a playoff game despite having that bye. But you have to give him. You have to tip your hat because he's won our division 3. If he wins it this year, he's won it 3 years in a row.
Yeah, man. I mean, yeah, that's very interesting fact, Kirk. Good job on the stats there, pulling it up. And I guess we can move on.
Okay, a bit of a shock here, right? Sheriff over Dev.
Yes, sir.
And here's another game that wasn't affected by the quarterback bug as much. And Kirk Cousins gets a start. I think who's his quarterback normally? They're on bye, right? The Bucks.
Tom Brady.
Yeah. So Cousins gets a start, plays pretty well. But Dev just kind of sees a lack of explosion from guys he kind of expects it from, and has some bye stuff going on. He has the Derrick Henry injury going on, and has a down week, 105. I mean, everyone had a down week kind of this week. Even you could say even like Josh had kind of I mean, he had 138, paced the league at 138.
Mhm.
I mean, that's a good score, but that's usually like third or fourth in the league. So kind of a down week across the board. And if you consider that, I mean, Dev doesn't score too low at 105, but I mean, he gets beat, and it kind of opens up the South a little bit because Mark's now 6-3 as well. Pretty good fantasy team. And that buy race might be a little bit more interesting than ours.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, the Derrick Henry injury, I think we all kind of understood its implications, but seeing, right off the first week, losing to the Sheriff is definitely a surprise here. And I will say, I mean, Travis Kelce with 17.8, that the Chiefs offense still looks dysfunctional. I think you're going to get more production from Devontae when Aaron Rodgers comes back. AJ Brown, I'm not entirely sure what to make of that. And then Amari Cooper, kind of a boomer bust. I mean, like looking at this team now without Derrick Henry, it's like, oh, they're beatable. Like they're very beatable. If a couple of players don't have, an excellent week, yeah, I think they're vulnerable. And all of a sudden that race goes from, all right, no brainer to, I think Dev and Mark, this might come down to the wire, Kirk, for that buy.
And we have to say that I think Jonathan Taylor alone outscores both Devontae Adams and Travis Kelce in this week, which is the trade that the Sheriff made.
Mm-hmm.
So, dude, Jonathan Taylor, since Prager's traded him, I'm almost positive he's been the number one running back in fantasy football. He's
Yeah,
been
100%.
absolutely absurd. Like 172 yards. Dude, this guy is going absolutely crazy. I think Prager traded the best player in fantasy football this year.
Yeah, I agree. And then the craziest thing is Dev then traded him along as well. And, at the time I was like, I thought the move was almost unfair for Dev. But dude, no, I think just the Sheriff has pulled off one of his classic tricks, man.
Yeah,
I
dude,
think he won
Jonathan
this.
Taylor. I mean, he's been unbelievable, right? And he's the star power on the Sheriff's team, which I mean lacks star power. Let's be fair, but
Although
uh,
Herbert's a beast too, though.
well, Herbert's now injured, right? Oh, you mean
Or
Justin
Justin.
Herbert? I was
Justin.
like
Oh,
Khalil
yeah,
Herbert.
there's
I was like
two
kind of a
Herbert.
weird, but yeah,
Justin
no,
Herbert.
I think like the Sheriff with Taylor, he's gonna be in the mix for every game he's playing. You know, so was that a bad move? It might have been. I don't, it's hard to say, but what is he going to be running at running back? He has someone injured. Leonard Fournette was on bye.
Leonard Fournette, yeah.
He has a pretty decent running back situation. Pitts is a fine tight end. Wide receivers aren't great, but that's week to week. You could get a good performance out of your wide receivers. So I don't know.
Quick,
Sheriff remains alive in the playoff conversation, and I think he helped. His chances obviously with the win over Dev.
quick note on Dearness Johnson. So Kareem Hunt injured, still on IR, I believe. Nick Chubb out. Dearness Johnson is running back one, as far as I'm concerned. So slot him in there, Sheriff, if you're watching, which of course, I mean, why would you not be watching? You're a grown man who, why would you not watch a podcast on the league that you're a part of?
I think he probably puts him in at flex, right?
I imagine. So you
Yeah.
slot in Leonard Fournette and then you throw I mean, dude, Leonard Fournette's been good too. I like the Sheriff's team a lot. There's some question marks on it, no doubt. I think wide receiver is probably a little bit weak, tight end kind of inconsistent, but dude, I don't know, man. Jonathan Taylor, Leonard Fournette, it's not a bad running back tandem whatsoever.
No, not at all. And dude, and if you look at like in terms of position improvement from the beginning of the year, what he had at running back to what he has now at running back, I think like probably he has improved that position more than any other player has improved any position on their roster this year.
Agreed.
Like what was it at the beginning of the year? Like Miles Sanders and like dude, it was bad. Damian Williams, the Patriot guy. Dude, it was terrible. And man, he really improved it. Should we get into our last game here? Josh Prego.
Yeah, Josh Prego. I can start it off with, kind of the norm. Joe Mixon had a really nice day. They were down a lot and they were still giving him goal line carries, which is just a great sign. And, Josh is probably, that's kind of what he expected is for Joe Mixon to get those goal line carries. So, props to him putting up a nice week. Keenan Allen was just ripping apart the Eagles, dude. The Eagles defense is unbelievably bad. I can't. It's not even necessarily a player issue. The scheme, as far as I can see, is a prevent defense played all 4 quarters, where they'll give up 8 to 10 yards passing as long as they don't get beat deep. Justin Herbert, 85% completion. That is 5 quarterbacks now, and we've played 9 games who have thrown 75 plus percentage completions against the Eagles, which is just mind blowing. What is that?
You can add Goff to the list of those. That is
Yeah, Jared Goff. I mean, dude, what a mess, man. But I mean, there's not much to say for at least for what I think of Josh's team. I think it's obviously contender, probably top 3. I like Tyreek Hill. I think he'll be fine, and then Aaron Jones, I think will be fine too. So I got no issues with this team.
Yeah, I think they're good. I think Debo is going to maybe kind of regress a little bit here. But I think Keenan is going to be, it seems like he's starting to take over like Mike Williams' target share. So I don't know. I think it kind of balances out from the beginning of the season, and I like Josh's roster a lot. You kind of had a bit of an unlucky run there. Like, what did he drop 4 in a row? So that was brutal for him, but I think he's still like right in the mix for playoffs. And I mean, he has like a good roster. So yeah, not much to say about him. In terms of Prego, like really rough. I mean, I think he scores third most in the league this week. At 114. He has probably the best point total he'll ever get from his wide receiver duo. What do you think?
Yeah.
30, 39.
I mean, his defense kicker
after the returns. 30. So Chuba Hubbard is now, I mean, he's gone. He gets David Montgomery back next week, which I think is an upgrade, probably. I don't know where
he's an upgrade over Chuba Hubbard, dude. Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, I agree as well. So I guess he gets that back. Do I think Prego will be scoring in the hundreds more often now? Yes. Am I ready to commit to Prego winning football games now? I'm not ready to commit to that. I think he's got a very bad team still. I mean, dude, he gets 30 points out of his kicker and defense. And like, I mean, he scored 114. And I know everyone had like a down week this week, but like, I mean, does Marvin Jones average too much over 5.1 like this season? Is Chuba Hubbard going to score over 2 points? Like, I just think that this roster is very, very bad. He tries to trade me Mahomes and like all this stuff. I couldn't bite on it because I love Matthew Stafford too much, but I just think this team is very, very rough. I tried to find a way to give him Odell just so like he could have something. You know what I mean? Like it was like I was kind of searching for like a way where I could accept his terms, but ultimately I just couldn't do it because like for various reasons. I might have actually won the trade, but it would still be like I still was saying no to it. But you know what? After I thought, this is a no, I tried to find a way to give him the deal just to give him something. Because, I mean, this team is abysmal, man.
Dude, I mean, the fact that Patrick Mahomes was also just hysterical. I'm sure he's been probably a quarterback. What do you think? With these 5 weeks, scoring above 21 time and then scoring 10 points or less 2 times. He's not even a top 10 quarterback just these past couple of weeks. Not that he's not a top 10 quarterback or will finish as such. But, dude, I mean, Patrick Mahomes is his best player. And he sucks right now. Like, he looks awful. He actually genuinely looks bad. So, I mean, and I'll say this too. Trying to go a fully defeated season, no wins, you're gonna need a game like this. You're gonna have a game where a couple things go right. You get 30 points for defense kicker, your wide receivers go off. But dude, this wasn't good enough, man. And I think this is the year, dude, that Prego is not gonna win a game. If not this week, I can't imagine a scenario where he wins a game.
Well, here's the thing, right? I like Prego to improve as a team from this week forward. Plugging in Montgomery. and maybe see Mahomes kind of right the ship a little bit for himself. But I think that the points are going to come away from his defense and kicker. Um, and you're going to see like right around, I would say like 110 mostly for the rest of the year. So could he win a game there? I think he could win a game there. Do I think it's likely? No, because I think a 114 week for Prego is like any other team in the league scoring 160. That's how bad this team is. Like it's just abysmal. So I think I think you're right. I think we could be looking at, you know, the perfect season from Prego. Um,
Perfect season.
so yeah, do you want to get into power rankings here?
Yeah. I'm just looking. So we have how many more regular season games
We
till
got
week
4 more, right?
week 14?
5 more.
So 5 more games. Dude, all we have to do is go 0 for 5. I think give me those odds. Give me those odds all day of Prego not winning a game this year. And all right, I guess I already revealed my power rankings. The way we're gonna do it today, fellas, is we're just gonna just drop them all one time and then just give some broad thoughts on who's moving up, who's moving down. Notable ones, I think for both of us, me moving down, not that surprising, I think. Sheriff moving up a little bit, also not too surprising after big win, big upset against Dev. Doomed category, same as always. Any other thoughts, Kirk? What do you think, broad strokes wise?
Um, for me, I think the biggest risers are Sommer, myself, and the sheriff. And then the biggest kind of fallers are you and Jack. Kind of. That's what I had. Um, and Sommer gets into my favorites this week. Not so much because his roster is like super impressive or anything, but just because, like we were saying, it seems almost impossible now to think that he will miss the playoffs. And Josh moved up on mine as well, kind of from the bottom of the contenders to the top. Just because, I mean, he's been impressive week after week. And yeah, he doesn't have a great record, but even when he was losing games, he was playing everyone close. I don't have too much to say. I got Owen at the bottom. Yeah, I don't know. There's not much really to say. Jack and Santi are in my panic tier. I've got them there because bad records, injuries, and they're on the outside looking in. Got me and the sheriff moving into meh because we had good weeks and got players back. And that's kind of all I got. Um,
Yeah.
as for your fall on my rankings, um, I just think, that was a big loss for you because you've got a tough schedule coming up here. I thought I was kind of the most beatable team on your schedule left, especially because I was kind of banged up going into the week. Uh, and to lose it just hurts. I mean, you dropped 3 straight now. You got to find 2 wins here. I mean, you got Prego left, but honestly, if teams continue to kind of win, if things develop in a certain way, even 8 wins might not be enough. You know, I mean, who knows? 8 wins should be enough, but we'll see how it
Yeah.
goes.
I was gonna say most years I think 8 wins, but this year who really knows, dude? It could get very mixy. It could get very close towards the end of the year. So we'll see. I think we should keep an eye on that final playoff spot because I think that could come. It's coming down to points for. So we'll see. We'll see what goes on, man. I'm curious to see what happens here. But yeah, I think you're right. I don't think we have any hot takes in here. I think this is a pretty fair evaluation of where teams are right now. I think maybe one critique is that Sommer is too high, and that'll be coming from Josh, who wants to be there because, of course, Josh would want to be the number 2 team. But I think right as things stand right now, given that I think Sommer is going to get the playoff spot, or not the playoff spot, the playoff bye spot, I like putting him at the favorites because he only has to win 2 games to win the chip then. So,
It
that I
seriously
put a lot of
helps
credit there.
so much, right? Like not having to play another game. Because even if you
Yeah.
go into a game a heavy favorite, like that, it's much worse than taking a week off, right?
Yeah.
So,
100%, man.
honestly, one thing we could have done was drop Dev a bit, I thought, but the thing is, like, who deserves to be above Dev? Like, does Sommer deserve to be above Dev? I don't really think so. You could say Mark maybe, but I don't know. I think Mark's team maybe still is a little bit worse than Dev's. Although honestly, I want to say like of the teams that have impressed me the most this year, I think Mark's is definitely like I think the biggest surprise. Like in terms of guys he found that really broke out this year, like Jamar Chase, Marquise Brown, um, Cordarrelle Patterson, like those guys, like are all kind of nobody's going in, and they're all top elite guys now.
Yeah,
So I'm impressed with Mark, but that's about all I've got for this power rankings.
yes, sir. Dude, it's you know, oh, Michigan Wolverines go blue.
Wow.
Big win against Indiana. Were you at that game with Sommer?
Yeah, me, Sommer, and Josh were all there.
Ah, very nice. Yeah, big win, and then got a big matchup Saturday at noon.
Yeah,
Happy Valley.
Michigan by 45, probably I'd say, but
Yeah, I did do a gut check on each. I had Michigan by 45, so we'll see. I'm looking ahead, so previewing one of these games, and to be honest, this is the first I've taken a look at it. I mean, all right, I think probably Josh Dev, right?
yeah, let's talk Josh Dev. Probably the interesting matchup, right, of the week. Because if you are a bottom feeder of the league right now, like Jack, or if you're on the outside looking in record wise, at least Jack, the sheriff, um, anyone else there who can really get in? I don't think so. Like Prager's out, obviously. Um, is there anyone else? I think it's kind of Jack and the sheriff, maybe you could say, that are watching this week with great interest because you want Josh to win, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and Josh, I mean, obviously he'd like to win. He just needs to score a good point total, kind of where he's at, to lock up number 6. But also Devin needs this win, right? Mark is breathing down his neck. Who's Mark play this week, John?
Mark has Prego.
So obviously that's a win. I mean, so if Dev wants to keep pace in this game, right? So huge matchup, obviously, and I think Josh is his record doesn't reflect where he is. He's one of the I would say he's one of the top 3 teams in the league talent wise, and so I think it's gonna be a huge game, a lot of implications. Any who do you like in it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking right now. I think this should be a pretty good matchup, man. I think probably the most decisive advantage that I can see is Travis Kelsey over Rob Gronkowski. Gronk coming back from injury was very good before. Not sure if he's going to be on a snap count. So we'll see what production he can get there. But dude, I mean, man, like Dev's team, like Devontae, I think Rodgers is going to be out though for another week unless there's I guess there's a chance he can play. I think he needs 2 negative COVID tests on Saturday. So we'll see if he can reach that COVID requirement. But if Jordan Love's out there throwing Devontae Adams the ball, give me Josh, man.
Yeah, I think I want to take Josh, but I'm going to say something here that really scares me, and that's Najee Harris takes on Detroit at Heinz Field. And I think that could be just an absolute shellacking. Um, you know, like I don't think Detroit matches up particularly bad. I don't think the Steelers are very good offensively. Like I was watching the Bears, Steelers, whatever. At the end of the game, like they need to go downfield. They're still checking it down to Najee Harris, which is good fantasy wise. But I think what you could see against Detroit is a very big workload meets a very bad defense, and there is a lot of capability for just explosive plays from Najee Harris. Um, and I'm honestly going to go ahead and say it. I think Najee Harris will score 40 points this week. So I don't know. I think you're gonna need a lot from Josh to overcome that. Personally, that's where I'm at. But I think Josh could do it. But even if he doesn't, he just needs to score a lot of points. So
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of unfortunate for Josh not having Mixon or Debo in the mix for this matchup, particularly.
is
I think it's going to be
or what's going on there?
for Debo.
Is
I don't know. Is there something we don't know about here?
He might just have him benched right now or something.
Okay.
He
Yeah,
played-
good point. I didn't realize. Yeah, all right, we'll see. I imagine then Debo will come in for, I guess probably Lockett, I would say. What you said?
Yeah, Josh has a good bench here as well. So he could maybe he likes Lockett against Green Bay, but I mean, I personally would start Debo.
I would start as well.
I don't know. We'll see. It should be a good
Unless
game.
he's worried about Jalen Ramsey. Would Jalen Ramsey
Because
shadow
Ramsey,
him?
I don't think he shadows players around the field.
He's just stay on one side.
Even then, like he's not like, I mean, he's not like Revis Island where the guy he's covering is gonna, get 40 yards. Like the guy can still get his due. It's just usually, a little bit harder. So, not to insult Jalen Ramsey. I mean, I think he's a very good player, but come on.
Dude, we'll have to have Jalen Ramsey on the pod, man. Kirk versus Jalen Ramsey.
Why did you intercept my boy Jared Goff at the very end of the game to crush my hopes last week? Should we do a few other matchups this week since we've kind of gone a little faster?
Yeah, we can.
You want to talk about me and Jack here?
Sure.
Big matchup. I think this is a huge matchup, at least for sort of the middle of our division here, John. Because first off, me and Jack have basically the exact same amount of points for right now. Okay, so I'm at 118 point something, and Jack is at 120, like exactly. So Jack has me by 2 on points for. I've gotten completely healthy this week, and Jack has been kind of banged up. As you can see, Jack is a 30-point dog in this game. But like, if I beat Jack here, not only does it help me like points wise, it also helps me like record wise, staying ahead of Josh. It's just a huge matchup for whether Jack gets in the playoffs. And if Jack wants to be in the playoffs, he basically has to beat me this week because I get Prego the week after that. If I beat Jack and then beat Prego, which I think, I mean, I'm not overlooking anyone or anything, but I'm just saying if that situation happens, then I'm sitting at 7 wins right there. Like Josh could not have statistically caught me yet. There are 3 games left, and I think it's very, very likely that I make the playoffs in that situation. So this is a huge week for Jack, I think, and a big week for myself as well, obviously.
Agreed, and it's kind of unfortunate that Jack is playing you at this juncture because dude, McCaffrey's healthy, Swift is healthy and playing. James Conner is now a bell cow. Like that, like all of those factors at the same time is unfortunate for Jack because you've been so banged up the whole year. But dude, I mean, couldn't have come at a better time for you because you can just put the dagger right in Jack's playoff streams.
Yeah, it would be a really awesome way for me to make the playoffs. It would be kind of to stomp on Jack here and then, roll out the red carpet the rest of the way. But I mean, obviously that's a little premature, but is there anything else you want to talk about? You want to talk about you, Santi, or anything else? I mean,
yeah, I mean, so Santi's been getting a lot of crap and
he's projected 79 points right now. That's a little.
So, but there's a couple things going on here. So Chris Godwin will be inserted, I hope, into Cortland Sutton's or T. Higgins. And then
Rodgers over Hurts probably, right, as well.
I have to imagine, but yeah, I mean, dude, is Jalen Hurts the number 2 quarterback in fantasy? Wow.
He is indeed the number 2 quarterback.
That's a little bit surprising. Wow. Okay. So, I mean, dude, I'm not taking this team. Like, Chase, you can't look at the line. Don't look at the line, everyone. This is going to be a toss-up. This is a coin flip game. Godwin, Hawkinson, James Robinson coming back. Dude, even Chris Carson might be playing. Like, dude, I don't know, man. The bells are, ringing. The Santis are coming, as Paul Revere once said, I believe. And dude, I'm nervous, man. If I lose this, I drop to 6-4. I would be tied with you, assuming you win. Do I have more points than you?
You got about 40 more points than me right now.
I mean, it's not inconceivable that I scored 80.
You would both be in the playoffs, though, as of if the standings were like to end next week and I won and you lost, we would both be in the playoffs. But
but now I'm third. I could be third in the division at the end of Monday night next week. And it's a scary thought, man, after having such a good start to potentially, now be third in my own division and then really going to be scrapping with everyone else for a playoff spot. It's not great, but like I said, I think my playoff dreams are done, done. and that's it.
I think that's a bit premature. You also have to look at the fact that the thing that hurts you, right, John, is that you kind of got injured like just a few weeks after me and Santi kind of got injured, right? It kind of feels like that because me and Santi are kind of coming back now, some guys. Um, and you're not really back yet. But I mean, this team that you are starting right now could win this game, I think. And then if you win this game, I think you feel so good. I think, you're writing yourself off here. You've got 5 weeks to get 2 wins. And I think it's a little bit premature, to be honest, John. I think that you don't need to panic quite so much. What do you think? Am I
Dude, I
am
mean,
I allaying your fears here a little bit? Because you do like, let's say all these guys he plugs in, right? James Robinson. I mean, he's starting then James Robinson, Gaskin, Hawkinson, and Godwin, right?
oh, here
Uh,
we go. So these are the injuries down here. Yeah, so I think he's gonna do Chris Carson.
is Carson back though for sure this week?
It's like a toss up. He's supposed to come off IR and then practice Wednesday, is what they said.
I don't know. I just think like even if all these guys play, you've got a decent shot at beating his team, right? I mean, your team's not garbage.
Yeah, I mean,
You got Russell Wilson back this week as well. I think you're just a
yeah,
little bit down. I mean, the Panthers might even bench Sam Darnold, which would be huge for you.
that would be a big upgrade. I don't know who their backup is, but that is a big upgrade for both of our teams.
So I don't know. I think you're a little bit too panicked, which is fine. I was also too panicked probably last week, but you're still very much alive here, John. And I think this game is obviously huge because if you win this game, I think you're kind of in, right?
Yeah, if I win next week on the pod, I'll be singing a different tune. But if I lose, it'll be hard for me to come up here and face the music because, man, I'm not feeling great right now. I'm not feeling.
Well, also what you might want to start considering also, John, is that I think you have a big point lead on Jack here. And if you were to keep losing, I mean, you're going to be competing with Jack kind of, I think. Jack or the Sheriff probably, right? For that 6th spot.
Yeah, dude, the points for those like pretty close all the way around.
You've got 37 on Jack.
Yeah. Dude, yeah, I mean, dude, Jack's also kind of unfortunate. I think he's just dealt with like injuries and I don't know, man. It's hard for me to say that I feel bad for him, but how many points he scored, I think he probably should win maybe 1 or 2 more games than he has. But that's kind of fantasy, man. You have close games, and then some years they go your way, and then others you just like.
I'm just looking at it though from right now, right? Jack is probably going to finish with around 5 or 6 wins if he has a good end of the season. That would be 2 or 3 more wins. You've got 6 right now. You've got 37 points on Jack, right? Now, if Josh doesn't keep winning, then Josh keeps Jack out of the playoffs, right? And there's no hope. But if you keep losing and Josh keeps winning, then Josh is probably going to be like 5, right? Or 4. And you're going to end up battling with Jack for 6. And then, it's very possible also that Jack will run his mouth at the wrong time, get fined here.
That, I mean, yeah, we can't undersell that. Dude, as the bracket stands right now, the bottom of the bracket is just the worst spot to be in. Give me a Sommer round 2 matchup. Yes, sir.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
is there going to be some tanking here? Like it's possible.
The
There
thing
might
is,
be a
though,
little bit
right?
of tanking.
I mean, I think you still want to win right now because you don't know if you're going to make the playoffs. Anyone right now. I mean, I think Josh is almost a lock for the playoffs because of his point. I mean, can you check the points for again?
Yeah.
He's got about 126 on kind of the middle of the field, 100 kind of. I don't know. I'm feeling very comfortable with that if I'm Josh. I don't know. Everything else is very, very close. It could go either way, but I don't know. Would you rather be in your situation or Josh's situation right now, John?
Oh, dude, Josh's. I think part of my issue too is that I just have so many question marks of
On
like
the
if
roster.
Clyde Edwards, what is that?
On the roster, right?
On the roster, yeah, purely roster in terms of like position, which is I guess it's kind of hard to like separate the two, but
Yeah.
in terms of position, I think I'd rather be me with more wins because then you never know, dude. You never know in fantasy, even at like 100-point lead. Like I was at the top of like points for like very close, and then I'm gonna probably finish like middle of the pack, maybe bottom of the pack. So things change very rapidly in fantasy, as you know, dude. The tides can turn very quickly. So having wins in the back pocket, though, I think is a little bit better than having all the points for, especially because of the matchup too. So you're gonna be the 6th seed, no, and then I mean you got to win 3 games, so no bye, no chance at a bye really. So I think that's kind of what I would say about that.
Yeah. And I mean, you're still alive for a bye too, as well. But do you think that, I mean, you gave Will an 85% chance to lock
Oh,
up
dude,
the
yeah.
earlier.
I would need some like very shocking wins, but I'm just like I like looking at this too because Dev 7-1. What are the other ones? I mean, you 8-3. It's just funny seeing how bad the projections are until you get to Pregos, and it was him at 10, and like we did all those different things, and it was always him at the bottom, and he's 0 for 9. So like they
What's
know
so
what to talk
funny,
about.
right, is that it's basically completely it's way off on basically everyone, right? Except for Prego, who like even the fucking prediction things like can't get it wrong. Like
Yeah, I mean, dude, that's just so classic.
I
You love
can't
to see
believe
it.
also too, right? That I mean, Prego at the end of the season, we'll see what happens. But if Jonathan Taylor maintains his current pace, I like, kind of think he's going to be the #1 player in fantasy this year.
Yeah,
And like he's on Prego's team, man. Like just hard to believe that
yeah.
you know. All right, should we wrap it up here? We got a little. We could do maybe a little Martelli roast if you want.
Yeah. We'll just do the Martelli of the week. Maybe save the Martelli roast. Martelli of the week is why don't you give your Martelli of the week?
I mean, this is tough to do, John, but I'm gonna give it to you, my friend. I think you had the roughest week, to be honest, because you know we both predicted you to win this game. Obviously, I didn't think I'd have McCaffrey or anything, but if I played James Conner instead of McCaffrey, it would have been so. I don't know. I just think it's a rough loss for you because you could have been looking at kind of essentially locking up the playoffs this week. And now, you're really down, obviously. But I mean, I don't think you need to be as down as you are, but obviously you kind of keep the door open for some speculation.
That's fair. And then
You
for
do
my
what you
Martelli of the week, I'm going to give it to Jack Martelli.
That
Putting
was
up
that
85.
was actually who I was debating between. I was wondering if
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, dude, he did have McCaffrey and Hopkins out, but 85 points. Would have crushed him this week. No big deal. Would have beat him by 11.
Well, it also hurts him a lot because it kind of like it throws the door open for points for as well. Like I'm now 2 points back from Jack, points for wise. Um, so he's kind of right in the middle there now. And I think, besides maybe like yourself or I mean, whose playoff chances, decreased the most this week? I'd say probably you because you could have had
Probably me.
100%. And then I'd say Josh, or not Josh, Jack,
Yeah.
who loses a game, which he needs to win right now.
Santi too. Santi's loss is bad.
Santi's loss is bad. Dev's loss hurts for the bye, not for the
Mhm.
playoffs, but for the bye, right?
Yeah.
And then I mean, who else really lost that? Like that really couldn't afford to. Prego loses. Who cares? I mean, I don't think there's anything else. One thing we have to talk about too is is the sheriff. We're not when we talk about the playoffs. It seems like we were talking recently in the last 20 minutes or so about the playoffs. We talked about basically all these teams in the hunt, even Santi some, and we didn't talk about Sheriff has a better record than Jack right now.
It is true. Dude, I mean, you never know with the Sheriff, dude. He's so crafty. I'm going to send him a trade request. A little disclaimer here. Sheriff and I have been engaged in some trade discussions, some trade
Oh,
talks.
really?
So we'll see if we can make a move before the trade deadline. But yeah, man, you never know with the Sheriff, dude. I think you can never count him out. And he's actually, like we said, there's things to like on his team, Leonard Fournette. And then, dude, he's got some potential to make a run here. I would love
We
to see
didn't
it.
talk about that this win propels him to the most wins he's ever had in fantasy with 5 games.
Yeah,
Um,
dude, a lot of changes in the league this year, it's refreshing. See me winning some games, see the Sheriff win some games, see Prego losing some games after winning the chip. I mean, you love to see it.
I mean, losing some games. I mean, dude, Prego is still in search of win number one. And regardless, I mean, dude, even if Prego goes completely defeated this year, sorry to switch it up here, but like, what is more memorable than whoever wins the championship this year or Prego's 0-13?
I was thinking about that too, dude, because we have these storylines being created right now that have the potential to cloud the actual winner. And Prego going undefeated is probably chief among them. Me starting out 6-0 and then missing the playoffs is going to be up there. Like, there's a lot of memorable things that might distract us from the champion this year.
Dude, and you know what's crazy is it's so eerily similar, your 6-0 like thing to mine from last year. It's literally crazy. Because like I had a good team. I probably wasn't the best roster, but I ended up 6-0. And then I had like a bunch of like in the small injuries I was dealing with, couldn't get right, and just missed. So like if that hadn't happened to me, I'd be like, oh, shut up. You're making the playoffs, no big deal. But it's just crazy how that stuff can happen in fantasy.
Yeah, man. Dude, it's killer. And to see it kind of like unfold as I am, like looking at my roster and just actually removing my bias and just taking a hard look at it, it's not good. I'm really, really down on the boys right now. So see they can turn around maybe, but as of right now, dude, I'm gonna be the Kirk 2.0 for all intents and purposes, which is just something you do not want to be.
But you have to also imagine that without, the start gate, whatever, if I'd started whatever instead of Kenny Galladay, I would have won that game and had the bye last year. So even with all that, so I think you don't have to go crazy too much because that's why Prego's lost streak is insane, right? Of 0-9, because you have like you should stumble your way into a win eventually.
Yeah, no, it's very
With 5 games. I know we're taking out Prego and maybe counting it as a win right now, but in 4 games, you think you stumbled to a win probably.
potentially. But dude, like I said though, you lose. I lost Chubb this week. It's really crossing the fingers. If you lose someone else, dude, it's like how you can't sustain that many injuries and then try to keep winning.
Well, Chubb for 1 week though, right?
Yeah, Chubb on COVID, but dude, I mean, it's just we're at an inflection point, I would say, for my team. And this week against Santi, because if I lose this week and then have to play Dev and Josh back to back, it could get ugly very quickly.
It's gonna be wow. It's gonna be quite a finish for you because Santi. Who do you play after that? You got Will.
So then I play, yeah. Oh, that's right. So I play Dev, Josh, Sommer, and then Prego to close out the year. Oh, Jack too, and somewhere in there.
Yeah, because you got 5 left. Wait, no, how can that be right? Because
So I have Santi, then Sommer, Jack, Dev, Josh. Yeah, that's a good point.
you can't play Dev and Josh. I don't think. Have you played one of them already?
I must have
already. You play Josh only.
I played Josh. That's right. So that's what I meant to say. So I have Josh and Sommer left back to back after Santi.
But we were talking about Sommer's like Sommer is not an unbeatable team. Like I'd much rather play Sommer than Dev. Wouldn't you?
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. So I don't know. Should be interesting. We've got a lot of division games kind of to wrap up the year here.
Yeah.
I'm kind of going back through the second time now. So it should be a fun finish. And
I was gonna say it should be a good, like everything is gearing up that it should be a fun finish. A lot of watch, a lot of storylines, and a lot of players to either step up or step down, and we'll be covering all of it, won't we, Kirk?
Yeah, we will. I mean, even teams like Santi's team is still in the run. If they get healthy, maybe they'll make a push. Sheriff's team. I mean, is Jonathan Taylor the best player in fantasy? What if he carries Sheriff to a playoff push here? I'm getting healthy. Could Jack get his stuff together and score enough to get in at 6? Is Dev kind of losing here? Like, what's going on? It's kind of everyone is very, very close together in this league this year, aside from maybe Owen Prego. But there's 9 other teams out here trying to make the playoffs. So very interesting year.
All right. You ready to end it?
There, yeah.